We are now recording. Good morning, everybody. If you're here for how to find, connect, and get business from your ideal clients on LinkedIn, you are in the right place. My name is Tanya Bartolini. I'm a real estate and business attorney in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And today I have a special guest who is also a dear friend of mine, Chris Ream. Chris is a certified financial planner, but he prefers to describe himself as a life insurance guy. And as everybody knows, nobody has to prospect more than financial advisors. Chris began seriously digging into LinkedIn about 2 years ago, and he has so much knowledge and information about it that he really wanted to share it with everybody. He's launching an online course next week on mastering LinkedIn for business development. Before we start, I do have a couple of housekeeping issues. One is, since I am an attorney, I have to advise that this does not create an attorney-client relationship. This whole webinar is not confidential. It is not to be construed as legal advice, and it is being recorded and will be shared. With that being said, we do have the chats and a Q&A section underneath on Zoom. If you can all hear me, and if you can see everything properly, can you please type the letter Y into the chat box? Okay, good, okay. So whenever you have questions, please use the Q&A. And we already have a question. What is the date of the webinar for next week? Chris will go ahead and tell you that later on in the presentation. Okay, so hold on to that question. Anybody else who has questions during the presentation, please feel free to write them in the Q&A. When it's time to answer them, I will read them, and Chris or I will answer those questions as we see fit during the presentation. The first thing I want to let you know is this does have 5 sections. First is the profile optimization, how to search for your ideal connections, connection requests and message sequence, cultivate and nurture connections, and post content to attract business. So as we go through these sections, we will answer questions that are relevant to them. Can we get a copy of the webinar recording? Yes, after the webinar, all of the registrants will be able to download the recording. So without further ado, Chris, I understand that you call this the PUF program. Why is that?
Thank you, Tanya, for hosting this. So I've been a salesperson my whole life. I used to sell books door to door when I was in college. Then I graduated to legal software, and then I became a life insurance guy. And pretty much at every conference that I ever go to, everybody's asking me, Chris, where do you get your clients? And I was actually doing a webinar a couple weeks ago, an advanced life insurance planning strategy. And they asked me the same question is, Chris, this is great. Where do you get your clients? And right off the top of my head, I just came up with, I followed the PUF program. And they're like, well, what is that? You know, I would follow that too. I would pay for that. And so I said to them, I said, you know, what if there was an app on your handheld device where you could punch in a 10-digit code and instantly have an asynchronous live voice conversation with anybody in the world anytime you wanted? How much would you pay for that? And everybody's like, wow, man, what's that called? Starting to Google it. And I said, you know, it's already installed on your phone. In fact, it's called Phone.
True.
All you got to do is punch in a 10-digit code and you can speak to anybody you want anytime. And today, with all the robocalls, I think it's even more effective to leave voicemails, because if someone gets a call from a number that they don't know, they might not answer it. But if you leave a voicemail, they have to listen to it.
Yep.
Now, I like to say that there's 2 reasons to pick up the phone. And one of them is it's ringing. That's good. And the other reason is if you want to talk to somebody. So that day when they asked me, how do I get clients? And I said, I follow the PUF program. They go, what is that? I said, it stands for pick up the friggin' phone. And, you know, you get some laughs, and you get some people that get a little bit put off by that because, oh, you know, I'm a distinguished advisor. You know, I don't pick up the phone and call people. So, but the PUF program works in both ways. It can either be incoming calls or it can be outgoing calls. So the LinkedIn training is about how to find people that you can call or to get them to call you. And I think that the first question really is, why are you on LinkedIn? And I think there's only a couple of few reasons why anybody would be on LinkedIn. One of them would be to find people. And I call that PUF outbound. And the other would be because you want people to find you. Now, I guess there is a large percentage of LinkedIn users are looking for jobs. So they optimize their profile so that recruiters will call them and recruit them away from one cubicle so they can go work in another cubicle. That's not what my training is about. I think most of the people on this call are you know, self-employed or you run your own professional practice or you own your own business. Is that right, Tanya?
It should be, because it is for finding your ideal clients.
Yes. And so I guess there's the only other reason that you might go on LinkedIn, and kind of a valid reason too, is if you, you know, if you're a cyber stalker.
Which we do not condone.
Yeah. So I did a survey last week, and I got about 200 responses, and this is what I got back. Why are you on LinkedIn? Well, 94% of the people, this is a sort of an informal tally of the responses. I got about 203 responses at the time I tabulated this. Almost everybody says they want more business in one way or another. They're frustrated because it doesn't work that well, or they connect with somebody and then nothing else happens. But more than half the people said the one thing they want in one way or another was more business. So this is the areas that I'm going to cover, as Tanya said. Talk about profile optimization, how to find your ideal connections, and then talk about what's the way to connect with them, what's the connection sequence, how do you go about getting the right people to connect with you, and then a little bit about how do you engage them and build the relationship so that you want to do business. And I call that the outbound outreach part of it. And then also, what can you do on LinkedIn to get people to call you? So let's go into the profile section. And any questions so far, anybody?
Well, I have a question, because I believe you think the profile section is the most important. So why is it so important?
Yeah, absolutely. Having your profile page set up, you know, properly or strategically is the most important thing about being on LinkedIn. So what I'm showing you now, what I'm going to show you the rest of the presentation today, are just screenshots. I'm not going to go on LinkedIn live and share my browser window just because that's risky. And especially with as many people on the call, if it starts to lag, everybody kind of can't really keep up. So I've got a number of screenshots. If we get to the end, if you have questions and it makes sense, we'll kind of go up on the high wire and I'll share my LinkedIn profile live and go on there if that's called for. But this is my personal LinkedIn profile. And the most important parts of this are, well, the most important part is the headline. So right here, my headline, I guess you can't see, I'm pointing at my screen here. I say that I'm a life insurance guy, and then I'm a QLS managing producer. So my purpose for being on LinkedIn, I have two purposes. One is outbound and the other is inbound. So on the outbound side, I want to connect with other life insurance producers around the country because I have an advanced strategy that I do joint work with them. So they connect with me and I call them and I invite them to webinars where I share this specialized knowledge that I have. It's called Qualified Leverage Strategy, QLS. And then I ask if they're open to doing joint work. The other reason I have LinkedIn is I've got 12,000 some hundred connections, and I want people to call me when their term insurance runs out or they need a buy-sell agreement or whatever. So the headline is the most important part. And that is right here, where right underneath your name, where you're telling people who you are and what you do. And it's got to be about them. it's not about you, it's about them. How can you help them? It's also real important, your name. You might think, oh, it's just my name. But I think people that put a whole bunch of titles in after, it's just not good. I put CFP because at least some people, give me some credibility for having a designation. Next most important thing is having a professional headshot, a real profile picture. No selfies. You should go pay somebody to do that and get a really good one. The next one is the banner. So I created this graphic myself, but I think you should pay somebody to do it. And if you have a website, it should probably be tied into the theme of your website. And then the other thing that's really important here, not everybody can do this, but I'm a Florida Gator. So it says right here that, I went to the University of Florida, and that helps a lot. I know some people, wish they were, but yeah.
Well, I will hold that against you.
This is my son Max's profile page, and I'm gonna show 2 or 3. I'm not gonna show any bad ones. There's a lot of bad LinkedIn profile pages out there. And so Max puts up here that he does business valuations, and he's the founder of this LinkedIn group. I think that the headline could be better. So it's really about what can you do for people. So if I were helping Max rewrite his, I would say what we can do for people. We can do business valuations legitimately, cheap, and fast. So, and why do I say that the profile is so important? It's because when you connect with somebody, you send someone a connection request. Everybody's gotten connection requests, right?
Yes.
Type that's right into the chat if you get a lot of connection requests. And
who has gotten a lot of connection requests?
Yep. And how do you deal with them? Most people are going to look at it on their phone, and they're going to swipe left or right in about a second. So you should definitely look at what your connection requests look like on somebody else's phone. But what comes up is your profile picture, your name, and your headline. So if you have a good profile picture, a name, and a headline, chances are they're going to connect with you, especially if you've got X number of connections in common. And then the next question is, do you put a connection message on there or not? I'll talk about that in a second. But by far, the most important thing is to have a professional looking profile so that people know, why would I accept an incoming connection request? It's only if I think I'm going to benefit, right? So that's what you have to do when you're designing your profile, is to ask people, you have to. So here's a friend of mine that I helped with his profile page. He's a local accountant here. Maybe some of you guys know Steve. And we came up with this headline for him because this is what he's doing today. He's advising business owners during the great reopening. So, and he's also got this image off of his website. He's got a professional headshot. Yeah, it's all around pretty darn good. So as a way to summarize it, the profile optimization, what you have to do, if you do nothing else, you must do this. You have to get your name right. You have to get your photo right. You should put a banner, and you must get the headline. If there's one thing about the one thing, it's getting the headline right. And remember, it's about them. It's not about you. Nobody ever went to Home Depot to buy a drill. They went to Home Depot because they wanted a hole in their wall. They just happened to buy a drill because that's how you get a hole in the wall. But it's all about the result and the outcome that you can get for them. And that's my quick little overview about the profile. There's a whole lot here you can spend. I'm going to spend a whole hour on it Monday. Thank you for asking when my webinar is. I'm actually going to do a webinar Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I'm going to do an hour a day at 10 o'clock each day. And it's part of this product launch formula where I'm going to offer my online course for sale starting Thursday. And the webinars are a way to me to give away as much as I can, and show I can help people by actually helping them over a 4-day period, and then offering the course for sale with a lot of bonuses and discounts and all. So I'm going to spend the whole day Monday just on profile because it's that important. And these are the other elements that you have to look at. And well, actually, you don't have to, but because when you send that connection request and someone connects, they're either going to connect or they're not. Maybe 10% are going to look at the about section where you put a little longer description about what you do. Even fewer are going to go down and look at your experience and where you went to school and the articles and stuff that you posted. But your best prospects, if they really want a relationship with you, especially if you want inbound phone calls, you bet they're going to do that. And it all needs to tie together so that the school and the experience needs to feed into the about section, which is how you serve people, which is then summarized in the headline. And you get all that working together, and you're going to get calls off of LinkedIn.
So
Go ahead.
Basically, if anybody has any questions regarding the profile section, please go ahead and put them in the questions. Everybody knows first impressions are very important. And this is why Chris has been saying the profile is one of the most important aspects.
Yep.
You are trying to get people to connect with you. So they want to know what benefit you are giving them. If you don't take yourself seriously enough to make it professional looking, you can't expect other people to take you seriously enough to connect with you, which is why it's so important to have the professional headshot, make it look professional and nice. This is about business and professionalism.
So LinkedIn gives you this checklist, and like while you're first setting up your account, they'll even come up with a window and say, hey, you forgot to edit your headline. And so one rule is that you always do whatever LinkedIn tells you, because they're trying to make it better, and they're going to serve you up and show your profile to more people if you do what they say they're going to do, if you do what they want you to do. And you'll get an all-star badge on your profile when you complete it and you do all these things. So it doesn't take that much to be way better than everybody else on LinkedIn. All you got to do is just put a little time and effort into it, and complete your profile. Why do you care about being an all-star? It's because LinkedIn will serve up your profile to them. If you search for somebody, and you know how on LinkedIn it says people also search for here, and it puts the same people, puts similar people there. Yes. This is how it does it. So if I search for business attorney Fort Lauderdale, or I search for Herman Schmedlock, who I know is a business attorney in Fort Lauderdale, and Tanya's got her profile done correctly, she's going to come up right on the right side of the screen and say, you might also, want to look at these. And this is the order that they do it. They do it by making sure they only show people that have complete profiles, right? And then this is the order that they're going to display the people that are searching for you. This is the order that they're going to display what people are searching for, and you want to make sure you come up, at the top.
And that's how you make LinkedIn work for you. So now we're going into the search for the right connections. And, there are two ways to find those connections, the free way and then the paid way. Which one do you use, Chris? Why? And is it worth paying the LinkedIn premiums for this?
So I use both, but I definitely have a premium account, and I think it's worth it. It might not be worth it for everyone, but everything that I'm talking about here goes back to why are you on LinkedIn? Are you using it because you want to find people, or are you using it because people want to find you? Now, they don't say this, but I think if you pay for a premium edition, I think that they're going to be more likely to post your content on people's wall when you do that. They may not admit that, but I really do think it's true. In my survey that I did last week, roughly almost exactly only 1/3 of people have a paid version, and everybody else is using the free version of LinkedIn. Now, I did a webinar last week with a friend of mine in California. He has 30,000 connections, and he had 400 people register for the webinar on LinkedIn that I co-presented with him. He has a free account. He's never paid for Sales Navigator. He's invited every single one of the 30,000 people one at a time, from his phone, over however many years it took him to do that. So you can absolutely do this with a free account.
We do have a question that says, I reached my search limit for people this month and it's only the 4th. I'm a little frustrated that I now have to pay for it just to find people.
Yeah. So, can I be a little bit flip with my answer?
Yes, of course.
Go to Publix and see if they'll front you a steak. It's so there's a couple reasons why LinkedIn limits the searches. One is they want you to pay. And the other is if they made it too good, no one would sign up because people would get spammed forever. And, you know, the good people that go on, that you want to find on LinkedIn, they're never going to go on there if they're going to get spammed and hounded by guys like me. So they do put a limit on how much you can search, and especially how many connections that you do. I've had the Sales Navigator for so long that I don't even remember what the limits are on that. But if you've hit that, you just have to bite the bullet. There's a couple different levels. I don't think any of them are worth it except for Sales Navigator. There's a version in between free and Sales Navigator. I wouldn't even bother. The Sales Navigator is $80 a month. You get a discount if you pay annually, and you can have a 1 month free trial. But LinkedIn is a powerful tool, and used properly, if you can't make $80 a month off of it, then you have another marketing strategy that's working for you. That's just my opinion. I apologize if that's a little bit, of a flip answer, but it's worth it. I think it's worth it. But you can do it without. So you can connect with a bunch of people without searching. So here's a better answer. You can connect with a lot of the right people without having to search for them. And that is by going on the news feed and then going to the groups. Or you can search for people. When I first started looking for the best life insurance advisors, I said, I'm going to go out for the top people in the industry that are really well known and recognized. And then I'm going to go in and look at their connections. And then I'm going to invite those people to connect with me. And that was a pretty good strategy. So this is the free search. You go to your home page and there's a box at the top here and you type it in. And as soon as you start typing, not many people know this. This is worth the price of admission right here. But you can search by people, by job, by content, by companies, schools, or groups. So like if you saw a post a few weeks ago and it mentioned, Citrix on there, you can go and search by content and it'll find that for you. This is all the free search. It's pretty darn good. And when you click on people, it brings you to this second screen that allows you to limit it to your first or second degree connections. Or here's where I did. Like I used Randy Zipsey. He's one of the top guys in the life insurance industry. He was an in-house lawyer and head of advanced planning for John Hancock. So I would just type in people that are connected to Randy Zipsey. And I would just type in, Florida, and then people would come up, and I would just invite all those people to connect with me. So that's the way you can get a lot of connections without using up your search limit. Yep.
Thank you.
Then there's the Sales Navigator. So when I was preparing this presentation about 11 o'clock last night, I went into Sales Navigator, and this message came up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to share this with you because this is an example of one of the pop-up windows where LinkedIn is telling me this is what they want me to do. And I think every time LinkedIn suggests something for you to do, you should probably do it, except this one. So what they want me to do is to type in notes and contact information about the client. If it was a better client relationship manager, I would certainly do that, but it sucks for that. So this is one that I would not follow, but this is an example of the pop-ups that come up. This is the Sales Navigator search screen, and it's worth it. And there's two different screens. One is for leads, that would be people, and the other is for accounts, that would be companies. And and they change this all the time. So last night, about 11:05, when I was doing this, I'd never seen this screen laid out this way before. So they're constantly changing it. It's actually good for people that sell online courses because I have to update it all the time. Yeah. But once you figure out how to bring up the menu, this is what it looks like. And so you can do very fine-tuned searches for people to really zero in on the exact people that you want to connect with. And the secret here is, the more of a niche that you can define that you want to connect with, the easier and the better it is. So if you're selling something super specialized, or if you're an expert in one little very narrow area, and you can do that all over the country, there's nothing better than LinkedIn. If you're a house painter and you can only work in Broward County and there's a lot of competition, it might not be so easy to do that. But just for this, I think it's worth paying for. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. Because they could make it a lot better. They could really let you search and find the real people that you want, but they intentionally don't make it that good for the reasons I said before.
Plus, one of the biggest things is you have to know who your ideal client is in order to utilize it to its best ability.
Yep. And I've learned so much. By the grace of God, I started this process about 2 years ago, way before pandemic lockdown. And it was because of hurricane season. And I said, man, if a hurricane hits Fort Lauderdale, I'm out of business for 6 to 9 months. I used to sell law books to lawyers when I got out of college. And Hurricane Andrew, hey, Tanya, you want to buy some law books? Chris, it's good to see you know, but do you know any roofers? Because, I need a roof. So I decided I was going to try to expand my practice outside of the region just because of hurricanes. And then I built this studio in my office, in my home. And I was all set up and really happy and lucky that when this pandemic hit, I thought, man, I have a huge advantage over everybody because I'm already doing all this work online. But anyway, this is the way you search for the people. And then this is the results. And you can get really fine-tuned. So in my life insurance strategy, I only want to find independent advisors that do real high-end work. And so I've got some very specific keywords like wealth transfer. And then I don't want to work with these certain companies. So you can exclude companies. Nothing wrong with these companies. They're fine companies, but they don't let their agents do joint work with independent agents. So why would I want to connect with them? And then you hit search and you get the results, and then you can just connect. You can also search for accounts. That would be companies, and look at all these neat things like head count, department head count, company head count. They even have annual revenue. And when you go into like company head count, they break it down for you. But again, frustrating because one, people lie or they exaggerate. And two, right here where it says you can search by annual revenue, I would love to be able to search for the business owner, of a company that does, with 100 or more employees that has at least 5 million in revenue. Well, they don't let you do that. You can search for the company with 5 million in revenue, and then you can go to the company page, and then you can go look at all the employees in the company and find the owner. But that's the frustrating part of it. It's just the way that they do it. And you can be as frustrated as you want. This is another part of that answer that, but LinkedIn gets to decide how they want to do business. And if you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. So that's searching. And there is a lot there. I'm going to spend a whole day on it on Tuesday. Everybody's welcome to join that. It's puffprogram.com. I'll give you the rest of the contact info after. And I put these slides up each time so I can have a sip of coffee in between sections, because you get a much better presentation if I get coffee.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. We do have one question, and if anybody else has any questions regarding what we just went over regarding the searches, please type them in the questions. How much is it to promote a post on LinkedIn?
Great question. And it's an area that I have not researched, and I'm not an expert in that area. So maybe you're more familiar with like boosting posts on Facebook. So I just took a Frank Kern course. It's called timetogetsales.com. If you are so inclined, go and sign up. It's $100. It's a 30-day over-the-shoulder course watching Frank Kern, one of the absolute geniuses of all-time online marketing. And he teaches you how to do Facebook ads. So what you'll learn is you don't want to do it yourself. It's way too complicated. You have to have an expert. Roundabout answer to your question. I think LinkedIn advertising is really geared for big companies. I don't think they want to deal with attorneys and life insurance guys. They want Cisco. They want giant CPA firms. I can't think of the name of the one that I'm thinking of, like Price Waterhouse. They gave Price Waterhouse an award for the best company page last year. I'm sure they pay a lot of advertising. And one of my colleagues told me that his frustration with LinkedIn advertising is there's nothing analogous to the Facebook pixel. So if you know anything about Facebook advertising, you put this pixel on your website on the landing page, and it tells you that it came from the Facebook ad, and the source of your traffic. LinkedIn doesn't have that. Having said all that, I do believe that there is a really good opportunity with LinkedIn advertising. I've looked for some courses. None of the big shots, Frank Kern, Jeff Walker, Dean Graziosi, list them all. None of them have anything on LinkedIn. So I think there's a big opportunity there. And I am going to dig into that. Like as soon as I launch my Puff program, I'm going to dig into the advertising.
Now, can you write the name in the chat for the Frank? I believe it was Frank.
Frank Kern. Just go to Google and search for Frank Kern. Just go to Google. Here's the magic. Go to Google, search Frank Kern online course, and then don't even look at the results. And then go on Facebook and you'll see all of his ads. Same day.
Okay. So
it's called Time to Get Sales though. He's actually got several different versions, but timetoGetSales.com is the one. But do what I said, because you won't believe it. He bombards you with advertising. You'll go on and you'll go to your if you're on your phone and you go to Apple News and you want to read one of the mainstream newspapers, you'll see Frank Kern's ad for his course come up on there. I mean, he's all over it. Just Google Frank Kern online course and you'll get bombarded by ads within 24 hours. It's worth it, worth the experience.
So now we're going to connection requests and message sequence.
Yeah.
I'm sure I get a lot of spam. I'm sure a lot of other people get a lot of spam. And, my biggest question is, how do we get the connections with these messaging when there's so much spam going on? What's the best way to connect?
So this is the area that I probably spent the most time on in the last 2 years and had the most success. So there's nothing you can do about the incoming spam except ignore it. I go and read the messages if they use a connection request because I want to see what they're writing and if there's anything good. It's mostly crap. Rare. I think I've seen one good connection request in the last year, at least as good as like the ones I'm writing. I think anyway. And you have the option to say you don't know this person. Don't do that. I mean, it's just bad karma. I'm sending out a lot of connection requests. The only way you'll get 500 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 30,000 limit of connections on LinkedIn is by sending out connection requests. You're not going to know all these people. And if you send out too many requests and they say they don't know you, not only will you be limited in the amount of searching you can do, you'll have your account restricted and you won't be able to send connection requests unless you have their email address. So I just think it's bad karma to click on that you don't know the person, because I sure don't want anybody clicking on that they don't know me when I send them a connection request.
I mean, that's the whole point of sending the connection requests, is connecting with people that you don't know and getting to know.
So the key is, and here it is, worth the price of admission right here as well. The key is to only connect with people that are going to want to connect with you. And you do that by very careful targeted searching for exactly who you want, who you can help, how you can help them. And by coming up with a really good connection message. There's a debate whether you should use a message or not. And it's really about 50-50. So like if you're not a good copywriter, don't even use a connection message, just send the request. If you have a good profile, a good headline, and the other key is, like, look at this one. I pulled up somebody just randomly, and these were two people that they were connected to. And the second person, Martin Berenger here, I got 21 shared connections with them. So guarantee if I send connection requests to Josh and Marty here, who's going to be more likely to accept? Marty. They're going to look and they're going to see, oh, he knows Carrie Stamp and Dave Noterer. Oh, he can't be a bad guy. I'll accept that. So it's really good that to strategically build your connections. So in the old days, and I've been on LinkedIn more than 10 years, when I would get a connection request coming in, and if it was a professional in Los Angeles, I'd say, wow, I probably don't have that many connections in Los Angeles. I'll accept that because that just is going to expand my reach of my second degree connections. Now, once you get to about 1,000 connections, it don't matter. You got plenty of reach. But the key is inviting the right people to connect, and then when you click on connect, and again, you pull up somebody's connections, you don't have to search for everybody. You can just get a whole list, pages and pages of connections, and then you can just connect. And that's how you stay under your limit. So here I pulled up Marty. How's his profile? It's pretty good. He's got a professional headshot. He's got a good name. I hate these symbols in the headline, but some people might know what that is. It's pretty good. He doesn't have a customized banner. He should probably have that. But he went to the University of Florida, so chances are I would probably accept that. Just kidding. But when I click on connect, then it's going to come up and say you can customize this invitation. LinkedIn members are more likely to accept invitations that include a personal note. That ain't necessarily true. It's really not. I've got people that do a lot of work on LinkedIn who swear that no connection note is better than putting one. I disagree. I think it's slightly better to put one, especially if you're connecting with the right people and you're using the right connection message. So with my friend Steve that I showed you earlier, I'm helping him with his LinkedIn. And in his connection message, he just has it in the notepad and he just pastes it in. And it says, are you up to your eyeballs in this Secure Act, not Secure Act, are you up to your eyeballs in this CARES Act and PPP? Let me take some of that off your plate. He's a CPA. And that's his connection request. And he's getting great. So CPAs have a big advantage. Are there any CPAs on the call? So if you're a CPA, you definitely want to put CPA after your name because a lot of people will connect with you just because you're a CPA. He's getting like more than half the people that he, or right at half the people he sends connection requests accepted. So he's doing great. And then you have to have a strategy. After they connect, I wait a day and then I send them a second message. So when I'm doing my QLS strategy with other insurance advisors, I say, Herman, I have an advanced life insurance planning strategy. I'm willing to share it with you if you're open to joint work. And so if they accept, that means they're open to joint work. Not all the time, because half of them don't read it. Half of them see my picture and I go, that's a good looking guy, and they just accept. But half of them don't read it. But when I send them a second message and I say, this is the strategy is called QLS. It's for people that have more than $1 million in their qualified plan. Do you want to learn more? Here's my link to schedule a phone call with me. I get good responses because maybe they didn't read the first message when I connected, but when they get my second message, who is this guy? Why is he sending me a request for a phone call? I don't even know him. Oh, I see when he connected with me, he did kind of ask me if I was open to that. So that's the idea. That's about what we have time for as far as sharing the outbound connection requests.
Okay. And now cultivating and nurturing connections. Before we go into that, does anybody have any questions? Once, twice, okay.
How are we doing so far? Scale of 1 to 10. Is this good stuff?
Please put in the chat. Are you getting some value out of this so far? We have yes.
I had a guy speak for my big breakfast. Maybe some of you on the call have been to my big breakfast before. So I brought a national expert in on LinkedIn, wrote a book. He calls himself America's #1 leading expert on LinkedIn. Most important thing I learned from his presentation, I know more about LinkedIn than he does.
Well, thank you everybody for the 10s. We have 1-8, but a lot of yeses. Go Gators. Indeed. Thanks, Chris. What do you think about automatic second connections?
I don't know what that means.
When you do the connections, sometimes LinkedIn will ask you if you automatically want to connect with their second connections, I believe. If that's what you're talking about, please.
I haven't seen that. I would not do that. You're going to get too much. You're going to get a lot of I don't know responses. Plus, you're limited in how many open connection requests that you're allowed to have at one time. People don't know that. If we have time on the live screen, I'll share my LinkedIn profile with you live, and I'll show you how you look at your open connections. And if you have too many open connections that have been sitting out there for weeks and weeks, eventually you're going to get your account restricted. Not good. And they don't tell you this, but I know about it. And they're changing it all the time. So I'm on a couple of Facebook groups where they're talking about LinkedIn marketing. And when they change something or they change one of these parameters, usually somebody posts on there, and that's how you stay up on it. All right, so cultivate and nurture connections. This is the really important part if you're looking to make outbound phone calls, if you're going to puff outbound. So the secret is you want to build a relationship with them. You know, it's like, you know, you don't go, explain this to my kids. I'm like, you know, when I first met your mother, I didn't go right up to her and say, hey, you want to have kids? You know?
Good.
Yeah. Now that works for some people. It never worked for me. So this is a cadence that I found this through my R&D. Tanya, do you know what R&D stands for?
Well, it depends on where you're using it.
Most people thinks it's research and development. It really stands for rip off and duplicate.
Okay.
So I've ripped this off of another LinkedIn consultant, and this is her cadence for connecting with people. So day one, you connect, and then then you go back and you visit their connection again, so they see who's viewed your profile. There's so much to talk about. We don't have time today, but this is a reasonably good connection cadence strategy. So maybe some of you that I've connected with on LinkedIn have seen that I've endorsed you for whatever skills that you have. Okay, you go on there and you endorse them for litigation, or you endorse them for leadership, and you do a bunch of those, and you're going to get a bunch of thank yous. So when you go in and you endorse somebody on LinkedIn, it's really easy to do, but they see that, oh my God, Chris visited my profile and he endorsed me. Yeah, he's a good guy. So this is the cadence for messaging and building relationships with people in the outbound. I can't tell you how many times I've picked up the phone and called somebody and said, hey, it's Chris, your friend from LinkedIn. And they go, wow, I'm glad you called. Nobody ever calls off of LinkedIn. So that's the prospecting cadence. This is the messenger app within LinkedIn. It's terrible. Talk about the biggest frustrations with LinkedIn. LinkedIn Messenger sucks. So my advice is, as fast as you can, move this relationship with these new people that you meet off of LinkedIn, onto email, onto phone, onto smoke signals, whatever you can do. The Messenger app is just terrible. And the worst thing about it is, like, if I'm scrolling down, going through all my incoming messages, I better reply to this guy. And I reply to him, it scrolls back to the top and it puts you back to the top, and you can't even find your place where you were. I got like 25 incoming messages, and you got to just, it's a nightmare. But there is also another thing. Here's another one, little hack that nobody knows. If you're on your phone and you're in the LinkedIn Messenger, you can actually send somebody a voicemail. You just hold the microphone down and you can say, hey, Tanya, I'm just sitting at the red light, checking my LinkedIn, and I wanted to reach out and say hello to you. Now, how many of you guys check your Facebook or check your LinkedIn when you're at a red light? So I think it's some of the best use of time, because the people behind me, they will honk and let me know when the light turns green.
Except now you have to be careful with cameras being put up everywhere to make sure people are not on their phones when they're on the red lights.
That's really true. So there's certainly an art about the staying in touch with people. And, you could also just, go on their feeds and look at what they post, like, comment, and share their posts. The people that you want to connect with, if you go read their content, like and share and comment on their posts, they're going to see you, they're going to notice you, and that they'll call you. I mean, that's the idea. And then if you want a really insider tip, when you see a post like that, and if you're just blowing through and you want to target your top 10 ideal clients, I just go in and type the comment brilliant on whatever they say. And, who can get mad at that? Just type brilliant. You just paste it in every time. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to endorsing people, I personally do not endorse anybody unless I know that I'm giving the endorsement based on their work or what they offer. So one of the things that I recommend for people who are like me is looking through their profile, looking through their posts, getting to know a little bit about them so that you can give them an endorsement and not feel like it's just out of the blue. So it is
a really good point.
An educated endorsement.
I had I've endorsed thousands of people in the last couple of years, and I had a call from a friend of mine that said, Chris, you endorsed this guy for independent, what do you call it? Claim adjuster. You endorse this guy. I just want to check with you before I call this guy. I have a roof leak from the windstorm, and I want an independent property adjuster. And I didn't know the guy. I did feel kind of stupid that I endorsed him, but there's an endorsement, and then there's also recommendations. We're not going to get into recommendations today, but that's a super important part of your profile. And if you can get recommendations where someone types I work with Tanya. She's done great. She's kept me out of trouble. She's kept me out of legal trouble in all the deals I've ever been in. That's really powerful. No one really pays much attention to the endorsements, but the recommendations are super powerful. Almost nobody uses them.
Yeah. Now, post content to attract business. I think this is probably one of the hardest things to do. How do you get people, especially your ideal clients, to work with you and to call you?
Yep. So again, it's by being attractive. Now, when I say that, like having a good looking profile picture helps, but I don't mean that. I mean attractive, like somebody that wants to have a relationship with you. One of the best questions anybody has ever asked me was from one of my mentors, Dan Sullivan. And he said, Chris, why does anybody want a relationship with you? Why does your bank want you to have your account with their bank? Why do your employees work for you? Why do your clients like to do business? It's a great question. And if you can post stuff on LinkedIn that will give people a reason to want a relationship with you, that's the secret. So that's hard. And it's also hard to do it on a regular basis because the way it works. So if you scroll down on your profile, on anyone's profile, you can see their activity. Right now on the connections, it'll say 500 plus. You really don't know how many connections they really have. But if you look at their activity section, well, if there's no activity section, it means they never go on LinkedIn. Okay. But if there's an activity section, so here, I shared here, look right here. I commented brilliant on this guy's post. Tell you. It'll show you how many followers they have. The followers is almost exact number of connections that they have, so you can see that there. And but this is why did I go here? You have to be consistent about posting content on LinkedIn if you want to get people to call you. This guy right here is named Mark Metry. It doesn't say his name, but I know him because I see his content every day. It's Mark Metry, M-E-T-R-Y. He's worth following on LinkedIn. He's really good. And the secret is you have to post every day. So that's why Tanya said this is hard. It's hard to do it every day. Another one of my favorite authors, mentors of all time is Jim Rohn. This is the guy that was Tony Robbins' mentor. And he has a quote. He says, eat an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, eating an apple a day, that's easy to do. But it's also really easy not to do. And so it's real easy to post content on LinkedIn every day. And it's super easy not to do it too. So you have to get in the habit. Now, Jay Berkowitz is a common friend of Tanya and mine. And I think he might even be on the call. He told me 2 years ago, Chris, every day you come home from work, well, when I used to leave home for work, he said, write down what was the most interesting question that you saw for your client that day. And then once a week, you go on your website or you go on LinkedIn and you answer those questions and people will notice. And so that was about 2 years ago that he told me that at a breakfast. Then I went to breakfast with Jay a year later and I said, Jay, you told me to do that a year ago and I haven't done it yet. And he goes, well, I've told 200 people that in the last year and only about 3 of them have done it. And then I started doing it. So this is the post that I put on here about my LinkedIn course that's starting on Monday. So if you go to my profile, you can register right there. But this is the real secret. So instead of just writing down the most interesting question that I had for the week, I've been going into the podcast studio and recording it. So once every 2 weeks, I go into this podcast studio for 40 minutes and I record the answers to these questions, that whatever interesting questions about life insurance that come up. And right before the lockdown, I posted about 120 videos in like a 4.5 month period. So I was doing it almost every day. And when Corona hit, I thought, you know, these videos aren't on that topic, and I kind of got scared away, and I'm just now starting to post again every day. But here's the magic. I started getting calls. I started people calling me and say they want to buy insurance. It's just magic. And some of them were sneaky. Like I'd get a call from a guy and he'd say his term is running out. Can I look at it for him? And I'd go through, you know, the question, I'd help him. I'd get his birth date. And at the end of the call, he'd say, Chris, I really like those videos that you've been posting. And I thought, dang, I hadn't talked to this guy in 3 or 4 years, but that's why he called me. And so it absolutely works. And you just have to do it every day. It doesn't have to be video. And some people argue, and I think they're right, that you should vary it. It should be text, it should be video, it should be images. I think video does get the most engagement. You can see how many people viewed your video. If they view it for 3 seconds, it tells you. And out of the 120 videos that I posted, I've got around 60,000 views right now. So it definitely works, and that's without boosting, and that's without paying for it.
Now, people who don't have access to a studio,
Yep,
can do this with their phone.
absolutely. And there's a whole school of thought that thinks that the phones, the video format that you upload from your phone even gets more views than these. And it's absolutely acceptable. Look at Frank Kern. Every one of his videos is a selfie on his iPhone. Every one of his sales videos is him talking into his selfie stick holding his phone. It's amazing.
With the videos as well, one thing that I found is that you can't make it too short and you can't make it too long because people lose interest.
Correct.
So what do you recommend as far as a range for the video?
I think it's at least 60 seconds. And then like if I'm posting on LinkedIn, I only do between 60 seconds and maybe 2.5 minutes at the most. Now here's something interesting. Facebook will show much more videos if it's at least 3 minutes long. But I also think if you're posting really good content, people will watch it no matter, as long as it's good. So you could have 5, 6, 10-minute video that people will watch if they're getting value out of it. So we're almost at the end here. I think we're right on time. On your home screen, this is where you can post your content. So you can start a post right here and you can type in text. You can upload a picture, you can record a video or upload a video, or this is write an article. Or, you can share a document, so you can post PDFs of stuff that you've written, pictures, even I think PowerPoints. And then this is write an article. It's a little bit different. It's a little more formal and probably lasts a little longer, and they can find it on your profile. So if you have a really good article that you've written, you can go in and write an article, and people find that on your profile, and they can, you can even direct people to LinkedIn. Would love it if you direct people to your profile page to have them read your articles. Any questions before we wrap it up? Any questions out there, Tanya? This is, of course, I'm the founder of the Puff program. That makes me Puff Daddy. And I am doing free training Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. And yes, the idea is that I want you to sign up for my course, which will be launched on Thursday with a big discount on all these bonuses and some really cool stuff that I'm doing. And this is the website. If you just go to puffprogram.com, you can sign up for one or all 4 of the webinars. So I'll leave that up, but do we have any other questions?
Well, I have, how long is your training?
The free stuff is going to be 30, 40 minutes, and I'm going to answer questions until the top of the hour. The course itself is a series of 30, 5, 6, 7-minute videos that follow kind of the outline that I've already done today. And then I'm constantly adding new ones. So like LinkedIn adds a feature. They just added this poll feature. So I do a video on the polls, and I post that. LinkedIn just added this thing called Pro Finder. Well, actually, they've added it a couple of years ago. I just found out about it. As a professional, you can go on there and say that you're a business attorney, and people will. I don't think it works that great, but that's something that I do. I do an updated video on that. So like every time LinkedIn changes or comes out with something, I post another video.
And I would like to see where we can see unresponded connections.
Oh yeah.
Really see
Okay. So let me me show you that. So this is my my LinkedIn. Let me bring it up in the other window, make sure there's like not inappropriate content on here first. Looks pretty good. Okay, so here's my LinkedIn in my browser window. Now there's another pro tip. This is worth the price of admission all by itself. You save this. You go to LinkedIn and you just save the link to the open invites, and there they are. So I have 716 open invites right now. And this is the, if you just take this URL and paste it into your browser, it'll bring up your open invitations. So you can see that there. I'll paste it in the chat. Or maybe Tanya, you can paste it in the chat. Here, I'll paste it in the Q&A. That's not working, not letting me. But anyway, if you don't, if you can't see that URL, if you go to My Network, and then you go to Connections, and then you go to, I always forget how to do this is why you save it. But if you go to Manage Synced and Imported Contacts, well, this is how you can export your contacts. It's important to do that. Unfortunately, April or August of 2018, they stopped exporting the email addresses. So you can export your contacts, but they don't come with email addresses. So here's how you find your open connections. If you go to the notifications and you see that somebody has sent you a connection request, hang on, this is why I save it. If you go to, well, anyway, when you get an incoming connection request, there's a little tab there and it'll say, see your open connections, but I would just save it. So it's, this is the URL. So here's my sent open connections. And this is how you find these when you have an open. So right now I don't have any open incoming connection requests, but if I did, it'd be on the receive tab. So when you're looking at the incoming connections, all the spam connections that you're getting, all you gotta do is click on the sent and you'll see your outstanding connections. So these are mine. You see I have 716 of them. And you can see I'm doing exactly what I said. Hi, Catherine. I have an advanced life insurance planning strategy you might not know about, willing to share if you're open to joint work. And I just invite and paste that in, over and over again. It's easy to do. It's easy not to do. But it's been really good for me. Any other questions?
Well, we are at the top of the hour. However, I will give one more minute for anybody who still has a question. It says, would you withdraw them after a while?
Yes.
And how long would you wait before you withdrew them?
If they haven't connected, if they haven't accepted your connection within a week, they ain't going to connect. They're not going to do it. Now, LinkedIn just did a very annoying thing about 60 days ago. You used to be able to scroll down to the bottom of your page and there was a button that said select all and you could withdraw all the connections. They don't do that anymore. So the people that are really using a lot of LinkedIn to send a lot of connections, and a lot of them are using automation tools, robots to do it. They had it easy. They made it harder for them to withdraw the connections. So again, you keep this under 1,000, you're going to be fine. You get this up to 2,500, you're in trouble. And now you have to withdraw them one at a time, unless you have a robot. And I do talk a little bit about the robot in my training class. If you use a robot, it's against the terms of service for LinkedIn. I still think they're viable and valuable because they mimic how you use LinkedIn anyway, how a human would work. And you can absolutely get your account restricted and banned from LinkedIn without using a robot, just by sending too many spam messages to people that don't want to connect with you. You can get banned from LinkedIn without a robot. A robot just helps you do things faster. So it can help you do better connections, post more content. And if you keep it within the right parameters, everybody's happy. If you use it wrong, you're going to get banned quickly. So that's my thoughts on the LinkedIn automation.
Chris,
Anything else?
So much for joining me today. Thank you for all of this very valuable information.
You're welcome.
And I'm really looking forward to your program and your 4-day training program, plus the actual program that we can purchase. It's very nice to see that you've put the 2 years of training into this program to share with everybody. And I think without anything else, we are done. We have thank yous.
Thanks everybody for showing up, and thank you especially Tanya for putting this together. I really enjoyed doing it.
Great. Well, everybody have a great day and a great week.